Is it me this week?
I've done it a few weeks, I think, so you go on.
Think you have, love. Oh, okay. Welcome to Welsh Wednesdays with me, Gill-Williams, and Kiri Pritchard-McLean. Every week we meet up, have a little chat about something we find interesting, and then at the end, try our damned hardest to summarise in Welsh. Last week I saw a nice bit of regression from me. just words. No, dim brawddeg o gwbl, just words. We've gone for Snowden neu yr Wyddfa in Cymraeg, and mae'n pwysig i defnyddio enw da.
Yeah, well, I only learnt it was Arriva, I'd say 3 or 4 years ago. I'd always called it Snowden because I didn't know, because no one around me would have used Arriva, and now I always call it that.
Yeah, same. And unless you want someone to think you're from Birmingham, start using the Wyddfa. Snowden quite a few times, but I've never seen a view at all. Every single time it's been cloudy. Hoffi dringo, Kiri?
Nah, dim diolch. Yeah, I've just got no interest in it. I've never been up Snowdon, partly because I think there's the complacency of when you live somewhere, sometimes near somewhere, you don't always do it. Also, growing up with a farm, it just would not have been the kind of thing that my parents have to like busting their ass off. If they had a Sunday afternoon off, they wouldn't be like, right, let's drag 3 horrible children up a mountain. Closest I came was I was filming a show called The Comedy Bus, and you go to each other's hometowns, and and I talked about I've never been up Snowdon on it, so part of it was like, I'm gonna conquer Snowdon. That's part of like the narrative, but because it filmed in January, the days are about 45 minutes long, and we basically tried to go up it, and then because you have to stop and film bits on the way and do sort of funny stuff, and Joel Dommett got completely naked and got in a freezing cold lake. We ran out of time, so we had to sort of like getting to the top. Yeah, but it's amazing. Like that, I've got some pictures of me at the bit before it goes up to the last bit. That's sort of where we stopped, and it is something really special up there. And one day I'm sure I'll go up, but probably on the train.
So Snowdon, yeah, it is beautiful. There's 6 different routes you can take as well. So one of the routes is called the pig track, which is spelled Pyg. But the problem with the pig track is when I first went up in Converse and denim hot pants, yeah, I'm one of them that gets frigging rescued by a helicopter. You've got to be so careful on the pig track because you can just veer off. Well, you might not notice the sign for Crib Coch. So do you know Crib Coch?
Isn't it like the second highest one, like that's close to it?
Quite possibly, but the thing with Crib Coch is when you get to the top, it's like you're basically 1 foot on either side of the mountain. It's like a knife edge, and it's just drops either side. You can see some really cool YouTube clips on that, but a lot of people end up that way. So you've got to be mae'n perigl, it's dangerous. And I think there's a misconception because it's like, oh, it's just a mountain in Wales. Like people just go up in all sorts of stuff. It's pretty cool, it's beautiful, and it's the highest mountain in Wales, but not in the UK.
No, is it Scaffold Pike that's higher, or Ben Nevis?
Ben Nevis, and I think there's about 5 more in the Scottish mountain region that are higher than Snowdon as well. About 38.5 million years ago, used to be an active volcano, which is pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah, quite a lot of the mountains so Eryri is Snowdonia, so the mountain range that kind of runs all the way down to Brecon Beacons. So a lot of those were active volcanoes. God knows what was knocking around 38.5 million years ago, but Snowdon is there and it's still here today. So it's pretty amazing landscape.
38.5 million years ago. I think that's when the latest season of the American RuPaul's Drag Race first started.
That was the first lockdown.
Like 1085, is it?
It is 1,085, or if you want to sound a bit more hardcore, it is 3,560 feet.
Wow.
So,
can I just say, I read that on a sign today because I went to Tide in Brunshenkin, and they've got a board with all the mountains mapped on it, because you can see the whole view across from like the transmitter in Nebo, is it? You know, near past Carnarvon Castle, all the way around. So they have this sign, like this picture, and it labels them all. And I was like, oh, Snowdon's this big. Uritha is this big. And I just remembered that. That's in there forever now.
yeah, 1,085 meters, right?
Yeah.
I might have mentioned this before, but I have climbed the highest mountain in North Africa. Yeah, it was for charity. And I nearly died. Because we have to acclimatize when you go to like altitude. So you're supposed to do like a little trek up the mountain, then come back down and just get your body used to. But we just went, no, do you know what? We'll just go up. We'll just do it. I absolutely was so ill. But there was about 5 of us that went. And the only person who'd done no training, Gary, just breezed it up and down. As training for that, a couple of climbs up Snowdon, we had to do that because Snowdon's a really popular place to train for mountaineers, even though it's not the highest. The landscape, because there's a lot of scree, which is like those little tiny slippy rocks, because there's loads of that. It mirrors quite a lot of like really famous mountain regions. So I learned about the first person who summited Everest, Edmund Hillary, would train a lot around here. And yeah, use Snowdon to kind of get himself ready. Obviously not to acclimatise because there's no altitude around here. And I think there's a place in Capel Curig that's in memory of that, because a lot of the mountaineers would come and train and and spend time in the mountain ranges in North Wales. And also there's a section on Everest that is named the Western Combe. So Combe is like a valley in Welsh, and it's after a Welsh explorer who'd mapped the path. I'm really interested in the psyche of mountaineers because I think there's quite a psychopathic link. And there's a theory about people who cannot feel anything in normal day, normal life. So they push themselves to the extremes. So
yeah, you see it a lot with people who've done loads of drugs when they're younger and then do ultra marathons when they're older. And you know when they're like, I'm a vegan, I do ultra marathons. I'm like, you mean you burnt your brain with cocaine when you were younger?
You're just very anxious. Yeah.
Some of my friends who I went to school with, there's 2 in particular. They're quite outdoorsy family. One's got their own family now, and they're always up there somewhere, and then knocking around in the hills, and like hikers. They're different to like mountain people, I think. People who just like, oh, I love a walk that takes 6 days and to have a cheese sandwich on a hill and hope that there's no clouds.
I think they seem quite free, and that's enough for them. But it's just honestly, the ones who do it with kids, do you know what? This is why I'll never have a boat, right? Because all I see is people on a fucking Sunday sanding, and I just think, what a waste of life. People who are outdoors just live for that shit.
Yeah,
I think.
People who are outdoorsy, I think it's just in your blood.
Yeah, it is. It's a lifestyle choice, isn't it? But maybe I'm just jealous of, they always seem quite positive people. And I try and think, like, where do I find my meaning then? Because you hear them be like, I find meaning out on the hills. And I'm like, I just really like going to fucking TK Maxx.
Yeah, I think there are more people who've had bad breakups and it's helped them process it. Yeah. And I've had a bad breakup, but TK Maxx helps me process it.
Long live TK Maxx, that's what I say.
And after lockdown, the queue up to Snowdon and to TK Maxx in Bangor is about the same length anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, but only one ends up on Twitter.
Like, one of those exes that you're like, oh, oh, when you see them, like, he's my, like, ex that there's very few, but he's like, oh, and I was in Llanberis, which is, like, I guess the town at the foot of Snowdon, right, Llanberis?
Yeah.
Because that's always got people walking along with, carabiners hanging off their belt loops, and yeah, like,
There's a lot of puffer jackets in Llanberis.
a lot of that, yeah. And then, darling, have you got the crampons in the car? There's lots of sort of like, and I saw him, and I was like, oh, how are you doing? He went, yeah, I'm all right. He said he runs up and down Snowdon. He's like, oh, it just sort of like clears my head. And he was like 12 years older than me when we went out. So, I mean, I'm in my mid-30s now, so I'm like, why are you pushing 50 and running up and down a mountain? Who have you killed? What have you got to hide?
Don't worry, you'll have no knees in a few years.
Yeah.
Wyddfa translates as the tumulus, I think it's pronounced, which is basically like a mound that's built over a grave. And apparently there's a giant who's buried at the summit of Wyddfa, and his name is Uritha, I think. So they believe that he had a coat made of people's beards, probably to keep him warm. It gets cold up there. And I think he was like from, like King Arthur, that sort of era. And I think he was defeated in a battle with King Arthur. That's the mythological story. And that's what Wyddfa comes from. Ti'n gwbod hon?
Sort of. Maggie Noggy's a brilliant drag queen, and Chris created Maggie and is the head of the Anglesey Druids, so knows loads about the history. And so I had a conversation. I said, oh, I'm doing Wyddfa, have you got any facts? And Chris was like, yeah, I've got to be in my bonnet about this. I'm going to try, this is my bit, I'm going to try and do in Welsh, okay, barod?
Barod.
Felly, ar y tren, dweud y straeon o Arriva, a y tren, mae tren yn dweud, Arriva means land of the eagles. Na, Eryri means land of the eagles, dim Arriva. So, shows is a mutation, so there was a G. So, gwydd, va, and fawr, it used to be, Gwyddfa fawr. So, va, place, fawr, big, gwydd. Mae gwydd yn gair ddiddorol yn Cymraeg. Achos gwydd, fedra, how do you say mean? Can mean. Gwydd. Mae gwydd, medra gologfa, can mean, dwi'n meddwl. Wood, a gwydd defnyddio lawer o coed. Okay? Ond, o'r Wyddfa, dim yn cael lawer o coed neu coedyn, achos mae'n rhy dim hir.
Uchel?
Uchel, ia. Ia. Felly, mae gwydd cael golygfa arall. Other meanings? Yn Saesneg rwan, holy, mystical, hidden, and a burial site. Ar y Wyddfa, mae'n beth ar y top, what's top?
Ar ben?
Ar ben, is it? Dwi ddim yn gwybod. Ar ben. Felly, so, Wyddfa, ella, golygfa, beth, ond mae'n likely bod yr Wyddfa yn symbol o be di gair am I can see it, it's got an H and two D's in it. Hydd, hodolus, magical.
Yeah.
Hodolus, yeah. Hodolus iawn. A efo, yeah, I don't know how to say this bit, but it was probably a symbol of a great. It had lots of magical powers to the druids and the ancient people here, which is why they would build a claddu pobl bwysig ma yn y byd. Felly, y mynedd yn bwysig iawn I pobl efo ysbrydol. Not dim osbriodol, but spiritual people. So like through hanes, through history, it's been this symbol. Felly, mae'n bwysig I defnyddio yr Wyddfa, dim Snowden, achos I assume Snowden snowed on, because there's usually snow on the top, but yr Wyddfa, golygu mwy. Felly mae'n bwysig I defnyddio y enw wir. Yeah?
Yeah, true word. True word, that. Work for an expedition company. And da ni'n drefnu teithiau dros y byd. Paratoy Expeditions am ysgolion. So nes I cefnogi athrawes I take plant I lle gwahanol. Trwy gwaith efo Expedition Cymru, nes I dysgu I appreciate mwy symbolism am myneddoedd I gwlad gwahanol dros y byd. Fel Everest, enw da ydi Sagamantha, mae, be di enw nhw eto? Mae Sherpa yn treat Sagamantha fel god, a mae nhw'n gwerddi I Sagamantha, a os mae yna damwain yn y mynedd, mae nhw'n meddwl mae God yn flin. Flin, angry.
Oh.
Basically watched Sherpa and now I'm trying to book a trip to base camp. Where I will definitely die.
Well, I was just thinking it's so sad that like the Sherpas see Everest Sagamantha as being like incredibly holy and a god, and they have to take sort of like tubby Europeans up there for $7,000 a go. I'm climbing my own personal mountain in the Welsh language, Katie. I don't need to climb an actual one.
Okay, yeah.
And if my Welsh language journey was a mountain, it would be absolutely strewn in dead bodies and monster guns.